My name is Chouchane and I work with the auction house Coutau-Bégarie in Paris, created in 1691. And we are specialized in several areas, such Russian art, historical souvenir, fund and old makerry, old paintings, jewels, and other. So I work as a collaborator and business contributor, and I am their correspondent in Armenia now. What is auction market? So it has existed since 500 before Christ. Auctioning is a structured trading mechanism whereby an economic agent, seller or buyer, competes with several other agents for a limited period of time to sell or buy goods or services at the best price conditions. This type of sale works on the basis of structured and pre-established games rule, which determine, for example, who can bid, what are the conditions of the auction, how is the final price calculated. The competition between several bidders wishing to win the sale is a condition sine qua non so that we can talk about auction. Nowadays, auction have become an increasingly popular method of buying and selling. The auction apply for the sale of any object, piece of furniture, or immovable. Sales may be judicial or voluntary. In art market, we can speak about voluntary sales, organized by the voluntary sales companies called auction houses. It is important to notice that the public auction allows the establishment of the right price by the transparent confrontation between supply and demand. There are different important players that make up the auction mechanism. So, first of all, the auctioneer. He directs the public auction of different objects. He is in charge of the estimations of any object for sales. He collaborates with different experts according to the nature of the art to which the objects belong. Russian art, African art, paintings of different centuries, and so on. The seller entrusts his object to the auctioneer for a public auction. A minimum price is then set by the seller below with which the auctioneer cannot award the property. We are speaking about the reserve price. And the buyers, which are different. The buyer can be collector, amateurs, merchants, and a matchmaker. To work in the world of auction house, some human aspects are very important. You have to be discreet, creative, active, art passionate, have some knowledge of law, be attentive to the evolution of the market, and be able to tell the difference between false and the true. Unlike galleries, auctions resell objects already purchased for the first time to the public. If the galleries fix the cost of the artist whom they promote, in the auction the cost of the objects of art are parallel with the last auction's adjudication price. Sometimes you have to know that an item sells more expensive than the price you bought first. Okay, concerning Armenia, I personally made an experience last year. I organized an auction with objects from France bought in the auction room. It was my personal collections. Paintings from 18th, 19th centuries, ivory, sculpture, old fans, Napoleon clocks, etc. And I realized that currently the mentality and understanding of the mechanism of auctions is not present in Armenia. People ignore this word and the values of the objects it tells itself because they ignore the story attached to them. These objects are just not present in this country. We can talk about Richelieu desk, Louis XVI sofa, Napoleon dresser. They don't know what is it. This knowledge doesn't exist here. And this is my personal opinion, of course. I also noticed that the few antique shops that exist here sell some old objects, but they are all, for me, copies. And the price of the old authentic that can be found in the auction room is the same price that you can find here as a copy in the shop here in the antiques. And to start introducing this concept in Armenia, I think it is important to organize some conferences, exhibition, in collaboration with the Ministry of Culture in other countries. This would allow an important culture and exchange with the presentation of different objects and painting reflecting the history of the art of different countries and culture. It's a way to attract people's curiosity and introduce the understanding of art objects. And we can also imagine extending the popularity of Armenian painters, already known in international, to promote culture and commercial exchanges between sellers and buyers Armenian foreign. For example, some Armenian painters such Shabanian, Atamian, Jansem, Karzu, and Ayvazovsky, of course, still find buyers in the auction room in other the world. Why not to organize an auction in Armenia with paintings by Armenian painters? In the other way, it is possible to collaborate with galleries in Armenia that are in possession of such artists by allowing them to export this painting for sale outside of Armenia. I think that to introduce this market in Armenia, it will take a lot of works, years maybe. But it is not impossible if we manage to collaborate with the important factors that would make possible to bring in this country the concept of the public auctions.
Would I be right if I assume that an auction house also helps promote art pieces that maybe wouldn't have been noticed by the public? And in this, if it's the case, how would you deal with emerging artists? For example, a painter that is not very known yet, you do the evaluation of their work, and can it be sold in an auction, or does it have to have a history? What are the requirements to be an object in an auction?
No, I would say that to promote the objects of an artist which has never been sold before in auction is not the work of auction. This is like more galleries jobs. In auction you can already just found some collections, objects that they has already been sold before, like 20 years old, maybe 1 century old, but you can always find them in the old catalog, not new. Galleries. It's the job of galleries to promote their artists, and they create the cost of this artist.
If I may add, that's also how we differentiate between the primary and secondary market, where the primary market is when you're buying directly from the artist or the gallery, and the secondary market is this reselling.
We had already had a brief discussion about this with a group together, but I wanted to ask this question again with regards to the culture existing currently in with Armenians that I've observed locally and internationally. There is a thread and a layer of mutual competition when it comes to either giving or buying. And there's also a very heightened awareness of who has what and to what degree and with what luxury. And with this inherent built-in quality of both in our culture and also just in people who enjoy luxury in general, I feel like there's an opportunity for the auction culture to be introduced. And I'm curious with regards to your attempt, which revealed to you that it requires work or years, as you mentioned. Where was the location? How did you advertise? And who were the people that you invited to witness the 18th century paintings and the ivory statues that you tried to auction?
Okay, so it was more like a private event. I organized it at the Golden Tulip Hotel on Abouven Street, Grand Hotel Yerevan, in collaboration with them. I had a list of guests to invite, which could be able to buy. There's a lot. But it is very interesting that after the auction sales, a lot of people which they were present but they didn't buy anything, they didn't bid. After the auction sale, they called me and wanted to buy the after sales. So the mentality of bidding during an auction sale here is not present. I don't know if it's a complex of people to bid in front of other in public. Maybe it's that, I don't know. But it's not present, and it didn't work. Maybe in, I don't know, 20 years or 13 years, maybe one day. But for now, they don't do that. And when I have some paintings to sell here, like Armenian paintings, like, I don't know, Galen, Shabanyan, Atamian, and I know that there's some buyer exist here, they buy them. But just in private, yes, just in private.
I have a question. But this is also a concern for other people who go to auction, right? Sometimes you don't find the bidder actually in the room. They have someone going on behalf of them, or they call in.
They call, or internet.
So the issue of privacy is not just locally. Maybe if there were some mediators, maybe that would help. Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about that process?
Oh, okay. To bid, like, you can be present in the sale room personally, or a mediator come for you, or you can bid by phone, and the third, you can bid online on internet during in live during the sale. That's it.
And as a follow-up question, what have you found amongst your buyers, those who come in person versus those who have an intermediary? Is there kind of a difference between them in terms of, are they a different profile of a buyer in your experience?
Like for Russian art, it's very interesting that for Russian art or China's art, mostly Russian come to the sales to buy their treasure in. They buy them to take them back in Russia, like their treasure, their history. The same is for Chinese people, but there is not special profile of buyer. Nothing special. Collector, maybe.
Other questions?
I think there was
I'm very. I think that I feel like this is something that could definitely work here, specifically with regards to if there was something consistent and a combination of public and private. Because, I mean, my question would be, well, what I would think about is how important is anonymity during an auction? If the case is that people might have a complex with regards to their identity, because I know there's money here, and I know there's money for art, and I know there's art to be sold, and I know that it's possible. So perhaps, is there a chance to do this experiment again, and perhaps with consistency or a team? Because I'm curious to see that this culture grow. From what I know, anonymity is something held at a high regard, because there's often dealers at an auction, not just an individual collector. So I guess the question would be, would you try it again? How would you address the anonymity issue, and how can we bring that culture to Armenia?
I think we should start with Armenian paintings, seriously, because I know a lot of buyers here who are interested in Armenian paintings, like Shabanyan, Ayvazovsky, and so on. Why not to start from that point? But I'm sorry, what I have saw during the sale last year is that people, yes, of course, it is a lot of money here. Buyer exists, seller exists, but there is a complex to bid in front of people. That's it. Because after the sale, they started to phone me, oh, after sale, can I come to Sorry?
Sorry, she was like, yeah, it's her.
So I have the microphone. Have you ever seen a work of Sarian at your auction? And if so, who was the expert or man who, specialist who made the authentication of that work?
I have seen, yes, it was last year, French auction. I think the expert was you. They told me about the certificate. It was, by the way, two auctions in Paris had been done with Sarian's works. One last year and the other one by the same auction house the 1 year before. They were exclusively auction sales just on the Armenian art subject. So there was Sarian, Karzu, Jansem, Yerevansi, and so on. But I don't know. I have not seen any Sarian works sold in Paris. I saw them in the auction sale, but what I know, it was not sold.
Okay, but I don't remember that I have given any authentication
this is what I heard. Maybe
French auction.
Maybe I am wrong.
I'm very anxious about what you have said.
This was not my auction house. So this is what
because
I heard.
there are some certificates that are false, and they are signed by me. It's terrible, and now we have a case. Now I don't know how we will work out this case, but there is a huge problem around Sarian.
Yes.
Can I ask? Okay. I just want to go back to the process of the auctioning and ask you two questions. So first question is, you said when you did the auction in Armenia, people would call you afterwards.
Yes.
Do they get a different price? Is that price a reason why they are calling you afterwards rather than during the auction? And the second question, in general, not in Armenia it didn't work. So in general, I'm curious to see what in your auction house, for example, what percentage of the sales is done by people that are present in the auction house versus like calling or online? Like approximately, is it more or less?
I would say more on the phone than on the sale. That's on the room. That's my opinion. More on the phone, because most of people are from other countries, and America, Russia, Greece. I had 2 customers in Armenia, but no, most people on the phone, more on the phone than on the room. And for the first question, no, it's very, very interesting, but they bought for the reserve price that I fixed. So they didn't discuss the price.
She has. Okay. I just wanted to understand better your current role in auction house. So you are specialized in 18th and 19th century painting. So are you the one who identifies, is it the original painting or not? What are you doing? I mean.
Okay, it's a little bit soon for me, but of course I can do this work. I'm starting. I'm for Coutau-Bégarie auction house on the phone here. I am their correspondent in Armenia because I have a lot of buyer in Armenia for Russian art, and so I am their correspondent here, and it's a kind of broker.
Okay,
and that's it.
And just one more thing.
Yes.
Can you tell a little bit about your experience in Gagosian Gallery?
Oh. What can I say? I didn't like. I mean, it's a very, very big experiment because Gagosian is it's Gagosian. But I understood that galleries are not made for me, not at all. Too administrative work, too. No, I don't know. I don't like.
Can you elaborate on the? Sorry, me. Can you elaborate on on exactly that difference? You know, what is it that pulled you to the auction house versus the gallery?
Okay, like in the auction house, we spend our day searching the history of the object that they give us to sell, okay? So it's very, very interesting. But in the gallery, the artist that Gagosian promotes, I mean, it was an internship, so it's my experience. The artist that Gagosian promotes, I spend all my day by searching on internet all the media that, what the media write or tell about this artist. And then you have to print the topic, and you have to cut, and you have to class on a special desk, and it was, no. And I don't even meet the buyer in Gagosian, really. You don't see what's happening.
And that is a key difference between a public auction and the gallery. It's more transparent.
It's more administrative.
I would like to include the third element. Now technology is disruptive, right? So if we think of a platform like eBay, how is eBay touching your world or not?
I have to answer? No.
Yes, because
no.
it's a culture of bidding, and I know that in Armenia, that particular culture of bidding is happening.
No, it doesn't touch, because in France, for the people who used to go in auction house, auction sales, know that eBay, you don't have any guarantee of what you are buying in eBay. I mean, a lot of fake items are present in eBay, fake certificated, fake, you don't have any guarantee. So in auction sale, according to the expert we work with, the buyer knows what he's buying.
But soon everything will be on blockchain and the provenance, so eBay could be a huge competition to auction houses potentially. Are you thinking about how the future moves in that aspect?
According to the buyer, which has some age, like there is not 20 years old young people which are coming to the... So yes, this generation of buyer, I think they don't think about eBay. They come à l'ancienne, in the old way. They come to see the expert, they come to see the certificate. So eBay for them, I think they don't even know what is it. For the future, maybe for some sales like jewels, why not? eBay could be a good thing. But I am still thinking that from specialties like Russian art, paintings, and so on, eBay cannot be a concurrent for auction sales. That's my point. Of course, maybe I'm wrong. We'll see in 20 years.
And I would like to add.
I have a question.
I would just want to add to the response. As yesterday, Tomai was talking about the difference between functional values and symbolic values, right? And the experience being part of the value that you offer. And eBay is a platform for everybody with a very huge range of price values. So it doesn't offer that exclusivity that you get in the auction experience. So I think we are going to start seeing platforms in the future, but it definitely won't be eBay, because that is sort of too low for, I think, what we're talking about when we're talking about the auction world. Yeah. We're going to take one more question and then we're going to move on. Yeah,
okay,
please.
I'm just wondering, did auction house that you present, did you have experience of silent auction? If yes, is there any silent auction?
Silent. Ah, okay.
Mm-hmm. And is there any differences of results between traditional auction and silent auction?
I don't have the experience of silent auction, so no.
What is a silent auction?
Yes. No, I don't even know about that, so that's why I'm thinking I don't know
really?
What is it.
It's it's like when Can I explain Armenian?
Okay.
I believe silent auction is practiced only in charity events. It's not a common practice. It's only for charity events. They do silent auction, they place the item, they place the price, and someone says, I'll buy it, no one knows who bought it. That's the silent auction. But that's not common in art sales. It's only for charity events.
I just thought that if there is a complex to bid, maybe silent auction will work here. I don't know. If it is...
Okay, but then how can you introduce the mentality and the knowledge of the value of objects? How can you make people understand what is it about?
We actually,
maybe online. I don't
I'm sorry. I'm going to cut the question and answer section, so we can move forward. But it's very interesting, Chouchane. Thank you so much.
Thank you.